Welcome to Beyond Reality, where we talk about clinician journey and breakthroughs in virtual reality rehabilitation. Whether you're a seasoned clinician, a curious mind, or someone navigating the intricate world of rehabilitation, you have landed on the right frequency. I'm Veena Somaredi, and today we are joined by Dr. Nupur Hajela, assistant professor and researcher at the California State University, Fresno. In addition, she is the Director of Rehabilitation Technologies and Outcomes Research at Central California Sports Sciences Institute. She is also the Director of Gait, Balance and Mobility Clinic. She is a licensed physical therapist in the state of California and Washington and an active clinician that treats patients with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's using virtual reality, telehealth, and remote therapeutic monitoring. She is also a trained neuroscientist and conducts her translational research on gait and balance in neurological patient population at the Gait, Balance and Mobility Education and Research Center at Fresno State. Her initiatives in interprofessional education, immersive VR technology, and telehealth have transformed the learning experience for students in health sciences, fostering a collaborative approach to healthcare that prepares them for the complexities of evolving healthcare landscape. Dr. Hajela's national and international recognition reflects her leadership in innovation and application of technology in physical therapy. She serves as a House of Delegate and Vice Chairperson of the California Physical Therapy Association for the San Joaquin Valley District. In this role, she gets to work towards advocating for health equity through telehealth therapy initiatives. Dr. Hajela is dedicated to senior fall prevention and is currently working towards reaching seniors with fall risk in underserved areas and rural communities in the Central Valley. She does so much, and so we are really excited. Thank you for being here, Dr. Hajela. I would love to know a little bit more about your background and what motivated you to pursue a career in physical therapy.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Dr. Veena Samaredi. I'm really excited to be here. I know that you're doing amazing work in immersive virtual reality, and we have been collaborators for a long time. But a little bit about me, my journey as to how I stumbled upon physical therapy and how I chose that as a career. Well, my roots are back in India, and ever since in my childhood, I always wanted to help people, and I realized that this was one profession that allowed you to spend more time with the patients and not a very short span of time. So I started taking interest in spinal injuries. And that's where my curiosity for learning more about spinal injuries and spinal cord and brain started. And that led me to actually pursue my PhD at University of Minnesota with emphasis on neuroscience. So there I was, a very curious student learning about brain, its function and functionalities. And that's where I think my passion grew towards more in treating patients. And then, with happened stroke and then spinal cord injury. And now I think my passion lies in treating patients with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Thank you for that background. Like you've spanned so many different diagnoses, and I feel like you're one of the people in the forefront, especially for telehealth research. Also, would you like to share a little bit about your research in telehealth and where you see the future?
Yeah, and I think that from that perspective, I want to talk about why the leaders of today need to be leaders of tomorrow first. They have to see what is coming in the pipeline. They have to be more of a visionary leaders. And that's why I thought that I was actually starting thinking about telehealth way back in 2019. That was way before, we were hit with pandemic. And that actually served me well because, because of my interest in telehealth, because of my interest in digitization of what we can do with physical therapy, my interest in making it more engaging, I was actually already experimenting with some of these tools ahead of time. So I think that's where my interest for telehealth grew. And then we all know how from the era of pandemic, telehealth was catapulted into the forefront. So I think That's where my research and interest grew in telehealth, where I was able to see its benefit in patients, especially elderly patients. I think it's time that we take that bias out that elderly people are not tech savvy. I can tell you some
Right.
of my patients who are elderly, who are aging, they're very much in tune with, they want to learn about technology. I think
Right.
let's put it this way. I think we have to be better educators and better teachers of technology, and that's when we will see more, I think, transformation, and that's when we'll see more conversion of people who would want to use technology.
I fully agree with you. That's the first question that we also get. We work with elderly patients that do not know technology, but they're very wrong. They have seen that elderly patients are so open to learning about technology and trying new things, and they want to do the best they can for their health too. So I fully agree with what you're saying. And I really like that, you're on the forefront of these technologies. You're always open to trying new things. And that's how we got connected, and you were really interested in virtual reality. So I would love to know, like, what inspired the idea for you to introduce virtual reality into your clinical workflow and research, and has it transformed your perspective on patient care?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very interesting and important and pertinent question you asked, Veena. Like I said before, I think clinicians of today should think about how they want to engage with their patients, how they want to make sure that the patients are adhering to the exercise, how they want to make sure that in physical therapy we talk about long term potentiation, we talk about long term learning, right? So if we want to take from a motor control aspect, and here I'm putting my neuroscientist hat, if you want to take something that you have learned but now you want to transform into a transfer of learning into something that they have not learned, how do you make that connection in the
Right.
brain? And the way you make that connection in the brain, so to speak, from the neuroplasticity perspective, is you have to do a lot of repetition. But then you kind of reverse engineer and say, okay, how can you do a lot of repetitions? If my patient is coming to the clinic, they're just doing a manual exercise, maybe they'll do 10 reps, 20 reps, right? How can you take that monotony of doing an exercise but make it in a more
Right.
engaging way? And I think that's where virtual reality play a very huge role. Like currently, as I would say that I'm using Neuro Rehab VR for my patients, and I see an Alzheimer's patient, right? It's very hard to motivate them. Alzheimer's is a totally different ball game when it comes to neurological patient population. They are there with you, yet they are not there. So how do you make it engaging? How do you make it more fun? How do you make it in a way that it translates into new neurons and lead to neurogenesis in the brain? The way you can do this is you have to have some components of neuroplasticity. One is repetition, which I already talked about. The other one is the element of reward, right? So how in the gamification of these exercises, in which some of the games that I'm using from your company, it allows them to have that reward mechanism being recruited through those exercises. So I think virtual reality, I feel in the next 5 years will see an immense, I would say, carryover from just some clinics applying it to major healthcare systems kind of using it. We already know that VA systems have already kind of implemented it. They know it for PTSD, it's been working. They know it for phantom limb sensation, it's working. I think it's now the what it has to trickle down into is into rural healthcare. I think that's where I'm coming into play.
Right. I love that the mission that you're working on, bringing, using these virtual reality systems. Thank you for using ours with the patients that you're working with, and coming up with new research, coming with new ways of using it, and also bringing it to the rural communities. That has been the mission even for our company. We work with health systems, we work with the VA along with the clinics, but going to rural areas is what will complete our mission and being able to give access to everybody who needs it. So I'm thankful for you're doing part of that work, and with your research and clinical workflow. And I know that you mentioned the Alzheimer's patients. I wanted to ask a quick question about that. Do you think that they have better concentration in virtual reality because that, they're more focused that's helping them actually finish the task at hand than if you were not using virtual
Yeah, so I
reality.
think I would say that if it was not for a virtual reality, even a seasoned clinician like me would feel, I would say, a little bit limited in my ability to do things with the patient. But here, for example, I'm using one of the games that Neuro Rehab has designed, in which you have a scenario in which the patient has a grocery, navigating experience. So currently, I use that with my patient in recall of items, for example. So I will show them some items on the shelf. It will be their everyday items, and sometimes I would make it fun and engaging and laugh about it. If the patient likes jam and jelly, then I would like to go for that. And I say, can you reach for that? So I am
Right,
including a motor task, which is a reaching task, along with the cognitive
right,
task where they have to remember in which shelf the patient has those items. And then maybe I can work with, as I'm talking to them, as I'm engaging with them, I realize, where their interest lies. So if they are
right,
a pepperoni type of a person, I'll talk about that. If they are jam and jelly type of a
right,
person, I'll make, work with them around that. So I think here I want to do mention that a human contact and a technology, there has to be some
right,
kind of a synergy that has to happen, because
definitely,
there is so much that a physical therapist provides, and it's so much a healthcare provider provides, and that's where we have to kind of elevate what we can provide. And I think that's what immersive virtual reality does. It helps us to have take think of it as an extension of ourselves, and see
right,
how
right,
we can leverage it to the best of our abilities to make sure that the outcomes are optimal. I think you did ask about Alzheimer's, but I would say for my Parkinson's patients too, I think I need to make sure that in some way Parkinson's, as people who work in that area would understand, it's a neurodegenerative disorder.
right,
Over the period of time, yes, the dopaminergic neurons are dying, right? But what do you do when somebody is going through that degradation? It has shown that
right,
exercise helps, and exercise can really slow down the rate of progression. So that
right,
means that you are racing against time, right? So you want to provide the therapy that is optimal. And I think that's what I want to tell the clinicians of today, is that we have to up our game, and we have to make sure that we are using technology and making sure that technology
right.
is on our side when we are providing those, I would say, innovative solutions.
I love that. And, that's how we think about it too. We are providing a tool, we are providing this new thing for clinicians that to enhance your therapy and help you enhance the therapy for those patients too. And I'm glad you think about it that way too. We're hoping that we're giving you more creative modalities with our applications for you to work with your patients. And personalization and customization is very, very important. And that's something we have been thinking about since the beginning. But I really like how you change it from like bread or jam or jelly to pepperoni, depending on what the patients like. And that will motivate them to be part of that therapy session, which is amazing. Coming to the Parkinson's patients that you're talking about, I know we've spoken a little bit about this previously. What benefits have you seen, have you observed since implementing virtual reality with your Parkinson's patients?
Yeah, and I think for that, I believe that uh, especially clinicians who are working with Parkinson's patients, they know the importance of cueing. They know the importance of auditory and visual cueing. And the way I explained it to patients is, when they ask what is the benefit of doing
Right,
certain
right,
VR based exercises, and my answer is that imagine that you are going on a highway and you have, for example, you have a construction going on, right? So that's a deterrent, that's a
right,
barrier.
right,
And then what does your Google Map says? It gives you a reroute, it reroutes you. And that's what exactly the auditory cueing or the visual cueing is doing, is that when we know that the pathway in our brain is kind of faulty, what do you do with that? You're superimposing them through the other pathways, such as through the auditory cueing mechanism and the visual cueing mechanism, to give a better response. So that is what is helping with my patient, that I'm allowing to give the auditory cueing and visual cueing through these games, and they are able to kind of move better. They are able to move faster. I'm not only doing balance exercises, I'm also doing agility based exercises. So I'm working on their reaction time.
Okay.
And we know that the research shows that people who walk slower, they are at a higher risk of falling,
Right.
right? So I want to make sure that my patients, I can move them from that high fall risk category to a moderate to low fall risk category. And that's exactly what I'm doing with these VR based exercises, which have those auditory cueing and visual cueing as part of gamification of the exercises. So my patient is working on, for example, the step initiation. They're working on their mediolateral balance, because we know that with Parkinson's, everything becomes smaller.
Right.
Their world becomes smaller, their stepping becomes smaller. And I think that is having a huge impact on my patient's ability to reduce their
Right.
fall risk.
And have you also noticed that your your patients stay in therapy for longer amounts of time, or it's the same amount when you're doing traditional therapy because they're enjoying VR more?
No, I think yeah, and I think you're right, because they are so immersed in that exercise or in that world. It has an effect on their, ability to, if they are in
Right.
pain, for example, their ability to, I would say, go
Mhm.
through that, experience with a longer duration of exercise. For example, if they would have been able to do just 10 minutes, now because of that immersive experience, they are able to kind of go at least to 20 minutes. So adding a 10-minute more and also giving them less rest breaks. I think that is a game changer with immersive experiences. They are taking less rest times. And so I am able to give them
Right.
more therapy in that 45-minute or 1 hour session, because they are asking for less
Right.
rest
And do
breaks.
you feel like those less rest breaks and more therapy will lead to better outcomes and for your patients? Or is that something that you?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, that was, and I think that is something, that's a study I'm working currently in. It's in the kind of in the publication phase. I'm writing it. Basically, I want to kind of, tell other physical therapists that it's not just the distraction part. It is actually translating into that, what I was talking about, the transfer
Right.
of learning. The other day, I met a patient who I had given maybe 12 sessions, and she was back in the clinic to see the doctor, and she was talking about how she is freezing less,
Okay.
how she has
Right.
become more independent. She talks about how she has taken, for example, a
Oh,
cruise with her
nice.
family, and which she was, so I feel that, the importance for us lies in those stories where they tell us how the therapy, or how the immersive aspect of utilizing technology is translating into somebody becoming more and more independent and less wary of falls, because that's what we have seen. Once people's confidence in their balance, and that's the first thing that I do is, I do an ABC scale. I try to do a questionnaire in understanding where does that confidence lies in balance. And I would say an increase in their level of confidence from, I would say, 40 to 50%, which translates
Right.
into those MDC values of minimal detectable change. It tells me that I'm making
Mhm.
improvement not just in those values. Those values are translating into actually
Right.
functional outcomes, and that is what is the key for
Right.
me as a therapist. That is my aha moment. That is something that
Right.
gives me high and say, I think I'm creating an impact and I'm doing something which is transforming lives.
We love hearing those stories too, and that's the reason we're doing what we're doing, that we're making an impact in people's lives so that they can live a better and independent life. And that's exactly what keeps us going too. So thank you for sharing that with us. And since I always think of you as in the forefront of new technologies. Do you see the combination of virtual reality and telemedicine in the future?
Yeah, and I think that is something that that's a feedback that I want to give to innovators like you, Veena,
Right.
is that there is so much that still needs to be done in
Right.
the space. I think we are just scratching
Hmm.
the surface. But I'm so glad that we are, at least, we have
Talking about it.
initiated that
Right.
from innovators like you and people who are actually innovating is, I think, in terms of, I think what I can tell you is that telemedicine and VR can go hand in hand. I think we can also, I'm sure you must be thinking about, machine learning. You must be thinking about how we can use AI into it. And I think the key lies in when we can take this and we can say that here is this headset, it has come down to a value where you can take it
Right.
home, and let's just keep doing what you're doing, but I'm going to guide you and I'm going to be with you in those, virtual spaces, or in those exercises and gamification. So I think next step, I think in this technology, I would say advancement would be a way in which we can help them take things
Right.
home. Because I think, again, going back to the neuroplasticity, you need X number of repetitions to even have, neurogenesis happening in the brain.
Right.
And for that, you need more sessions. And I know that, my friends who are in the PT world, yes, we do get, very sometimes get sidetracked with insurance. We
Right.
do get sidetracked with the aspect of, is the insurance going to
Right.
pay for me today? But I think we do need early adopters, and we do need people who are investing in it for the future
Right.
and the future of healthcare. And that is what we need right now. We need both elements. We need elements in which we have clinicians and healthcare system administrators thinking about the role of virtual reality and what it can provide from its potential to its
Right.
application. And we also need, for example, when we think about telehealth, telemedicine, and AI, what are the things, what is the element of exercise we can provide that patient can do
Right.
at home and get better? I think the example that comes to my mind is,
Right.
stroke rehab. I think that's an area which will see tremendous growth in it, and the patients will see tremendous benefit if we can allow those VR
Right.
headsets to go home. And for that, I know from the business standpoint, people like you are doing some excellent work, in that area. But maybe, the community need to support people like you and companies like you to make them,
Right.
do innovative things. And I think that's where the synergy lies.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, and I think we're seeing more and more of that. We're seeing colleges and adding VR as part of their curriculum, teaching students what's coming next, so that they are also well versed in what the future would be like. And people like you and other researchers that are really embracing virtual reality, and I feel like we do have that community are starting to form really, really well. And it's always amazing for me to find somebody out there who's interested in virtual reality and doing rehab in it. Uh, for my next question, now that I have heard more and more schools adding VR into their curriculum, are you also thinking about it? And is that something that you also teach within the courses that you do?
Yes, I think very interesting question you asked. I am actually thinking about it, not just thinking, I'm implementing it.
Right.
I have in my curriculum, and I have always been that, that educator or professor who would want the students to have evidence-based
Right.
care. And, the evidence comes from the application and it comes from embracing technology. So, yes, in my curriculum, for example, the other day we were talking about virtual reality. I did talk about my, experience treating patients with Parkinson's and its application, and in Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's was a new topic I introduced in my neurological management and evaluation curriculum, because I feel that, as the lifespan of, individuals are increasing, we may see,
Right.
I would say, unfortunately, areas where people may have to, think about memory,
Right.
retention, cognition. And I think that is a space where physical therapists and other healthcare providers need to provide innovative solutions. So, to answer your question, we are already kind of doing that at Fresno State. I am already have inducted this as part of, my teaching curriculum. And I think we need more, I would say, embracing of application of technology into the curriculum so that people get used to it. I think technology, I always feel, is a
Right.
tool. I From my researcher brain, I always think we need to ask good questions, and that's what I am
Right.
teaching my students, is to come up with good questions so that you can use technology as a tool to solve them.
I love that, and I'm sure the students that are working with you are learning a lot, and they're lucky to be have you as an educator. Uh, Love it. So, is there any other stories you would like to share about patients that you have worked with and how they benefited virtual reality? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, the story that comes to my mind actually is my current patient.
Okay.
He is a Parkinson's patient and he is an 87-year-old
Wow.
gentleman, but he exercises 6 days a week. And when he said that, I said, you are my role model because even me with my hectic
Hmm.
schedule and everything, I exercise thrice a week. I don't get time, but you are my star
Great.
patient. And what I'm seeing is because he's exercising, apart from the twice a week that he's coming to see
Right.
me, I'm seeing a tremendous change in his ability to do things. And for that matter, even with Parkinson's, he's not that limited.
Good.
So I think the story I can resonates with me, the effect of exercise. We all know the benefits of exercise, but with this gentleman, even with a neurological
Right.
disorder, I was able to see how with few sessions I could have him get into a better
Right.
posture, less fall risk, less freezing of gait. And he was telling me the other day, I am sleeping better. So I think we know that Parkinson's
Right.
affects sleep. And if patient comes and tells me that their sleep cycle is getting better, that tells me that neurologically or from the nervous system point, we are doing something that is helping the patient. So that's one story for you.
That is amazing to know. I'm glad you're making such a big difference in his life. Uh, so, as you know, I think of you as the role model educator and clinician, and also the person who's picking up new technologies and experimenting with it and writing papers about it. So you do so many things. So my question is for aspiring clinicians and individuals and also researchers who are interested in using virtual reality for rehab space, what advice would you offer them based on your experience?
I think and I think you are putting me on a pedestal, but I'm still still learning so many things from people who are ahead, who are mentors for me. And I think my advice to young clinicians, my advice to young educators is to start something small. I would say, don't think of a big project, think of a pilot project, think of a 8 or 10 people project that you want to study and you have a good question. Start with healthy population if you are concerned about fall risk or you don't want to take that stance, but do this study or do this or maybe use this technology with patient population that you feel comfortable with, and then see its application. Again, I feel that technology is something that you first have to play with it, and you have to just get used to its nuances before you can say yay or nay. So I would say get yourself something that you're
Right.
excited about
Right.
learning, and then use technology again as a tool to learn that or understand that question, and
Right.
start small, and maybe find mentors. I would say I'm part of APTA, Academy of Leadership and Innovation, and that is my space in which I have found mentors in technology who allow me to be who I am today. So I think it's very important for young educators or young clinicians to be surrounded by people who are at least few years ahead of you in whatever you're trying to do so that they
Right.
can mentor you. And for me, APTA, Academy of Leadership and Innovation, is that space. So if you want, you can join that as part of APTA and meet some like-minded people. And I think some fun conversations
Right.
can lead to some interesting ideas. So I think grab a cup of coffee and meet some exciting people.
And that's what it is like. You have to be in the spaces where the other innovators are, the other clinicians who have experience are around so that you can absorb from them, and also you end up finding the best mentors of your life. And you just have to put yourself out there. And I'm glad you're saying that. Uh, in the end, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience about your journey or your way of using virtual reality for therapy? Anything that you would like to add?
I think when you say journey, it becomes very
Right,
nostalgic, and it becomes something that I think I have started, asking myself, the phase of life that I am in, as to, and it was very interesting. I never used to think about, what is my purpose, what is my purpose in life, and, what I want to do. And I think my journey started as in a middle class family, in surrounded by educators, and I thought that education was something that was transformational for me. So I feel that even if, for generations who are coming in the pipeline, I would say be a lifelong learner. That has really served me well. And I think I would say that pick something that you're passionate about. And I am kind of, discovering that I'm really passionate about
right,
technology and its application in healthcare, and intersection of, healthcare and technology. And right now I'm following my passion. So, I think it's always about and I was reading a book the other day, and it talks about you don't find passion, you develop a passion. And, I think that's what I am on my journey of developing my passion. So I would say,
right.
find, don't just find, but develop your passion.
I love that. I love that. Awesome. If somebody wants to contact you, what is the best way to reach you?
Well, they can, hit me on LinkedIn. They can find Nupur Hajela, and I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And I would want to take this opportunity to also thank you, Veena, for what you're doing in the technology space. I think we need innovators who are also very empathetic, who are looking for solutions in which you can impact life.
Right,
I'm sure, you were on your journey of, understanding virtual reality, working on your PhD, and then you found that, this is the space which has not been explored,
right,
and you went and made your own journey and your own path. So we need trailblazers like you, who are passionate about, what you do, and, keep doing what you're doing. I think you are on the right path, and you are onto something big. And we need people like Veena, who can really transform, the technology space from her empathetic side as an individual. So thank you for having me.
thank you so much. Yeah, it was such a pleasure to have you on our podcast, and thank you so much for your insights and also putting me on a pedestal. I'm still learning and going as we go, and we learn from clinicians like you as to what should we build next, what's the best way to do it, and you, because you are closer to the patients more than we are at this point as a remote company. So we really love all the stories that we hear from the clinicians that are using our devices. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. This is amazing.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Beyond Reality podcast. Try our demo now at neurorehabvr.com to learn more about how you can enhance rehabilitation with virtual reality.